sort of what looks like the start of a season, but as I'm sure you're all well aware from the messaging recently, we're on hold as well. So tonight we're gonna go through some of the specifics for coaches and updating expectations, and open for some Q&A. And so we'll get started here. So prepping my screen here. All right. So the goal for tonight is to give you another level of detail on what it'll be like to coach this season. First off, looking at the schedule, season overview, as we've found consistently through this year, everything changes and it changes rapidly. So this gives you the best that we know at this time. So in July, we're continuing to do education. Has put on a couple excellent sessions, getting into some deeper details on training in the heat and nutrition. And so keep an eye out for those, and there will be more to come, and we'll keep going with them. There's also on the bike courses, so if you need that for your level 2 or CEUs to keep your level 3 current, keep watching for those courses. And I do have an OTB 201 scheduled for this Saturday, so I'd love to have a few more participants in that, and we'll follow it up with a preview of Adventure, kind of a trial run. So if you have interest in what we're doing with Adventure in a good amount more detail than this session tonight, then come check it out. And there's not a prerequisite that you participate in the 201 course to do the Adventure course in the afternoon. All right, and then as far as OTB 20 or 101s, we have a number who have participated, and then the registration's open. So just watch for those.
Quick question, Andrew. Will there be additional OTB 201 classes or even that adventure class? Or will that be in late time?
So I have not scheduled, especially the additional 201s and the adventure. This is kind of a first round to give it a try. So I don't. Probably the hard part about them is that they're longer. So 201 is a 5-hour course, and then the adventure session is projected for about 3 hours. So I have to do that on a weekend. Actually, I guess I could do an adventure preview on an evening. So we'll see how that goes and decide what makes sense. I take that as interest if there is another opening.
Yeah, I'd be interested in the adventure too. We kind of had plans and I didn't realize this was coming up. So.
Okay. All right, I'll keep that in mind and consider doing it as probably still up at Bogus on an evening, looking for a little bit more cool mountain air.
Great.
This is where we get into what to expect next. So August, and I just have early August here, which is optimistic. As soon as Boise Schools gives us answers that we can are able to proceed, then we'll get started, and really everything is in the hands of Boise Schools to make that decision for athletics, and then the Idaho League will follow suit based on what Boise Schools tells us. I do hear that there's another meeting for I think it was tomorrow morning, and there may be more decisions that come out of that meeting. So just stay tuned, and then as soon as we know anything, we'll get the information out there. after we get started with practices, whether it's August 1st or August 31st, whatever it works out to be, about 2 weeks later, once we're well in the swing of being able to practice, that's when we'll ramp into adventure. And then a date that isn't calculated off of that is that the time trials that the league is providing to us, and I have some more detail on that a little bit later on. We'll get into or start doing time trials. Basically, they follow the same schedule as the traditional race schedule. So starting on that last weekend of August and then extending into the beginning of October. And then for September and really early October, then we will continue to do adventure riding and time trials. So in the interest of keeping this a little bit more conversational, any questions on that timing and the details of the different things we're doing? Let me get into those a little later.
Andrew, do you want me to read from our chat?
Yeah, sure. And also what I will do is I've got 2 screens, so.
Okay. So we've got Josh let us know that it looks like schools have announced August 10th as the start date for sports. We'll see if IICL will follow. There's a question if there's going to be an opportunity for another OTB 101.
Yes, there will be additional OTB 101s. I have a request from one other coach to do a Monday or a Friday, and then I just have to pick a schedule and put it out there. So, Chris, does it matter to you day of the week, whether it's a midweek, Monday, Friday, or weekends?
So it doesn't really matter. My schedule rotates week to week, but I'll be gone until Tuesday night next week. So it would have to be the following week. Probably okay. The following Monday would work if it's just you and me and one other person.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm just looking at getting my level 2. I've done everything. I think I need the OTB 101 and one other skills thing, and I should be ready.
Okay. Yeah, it won't be before you're back on Tuesday.
Okay, great. Thanks, Andrew.
Then we've got from Brian, is there a chance there's going to be another coaches summit for those interested in level 3?
As of right now, there will not be another leader summit. What I would recommend is anybody who needs leader summit, shoot an email to Eddie. And if there's enough people that show interest, we can see what happens. My guess is this late in the year, we won't see one though. Okay, keep moving. So I just want to say thank you. You just saw on the schedule that it's been guess and shift non-stop for this season. So you guys have done a great job of really jumping in both as parents and as coaches, getting yourselves and your student athletes trained up, leveled up, and just sticking with it as this thing changes on us. So we really can't do it without you guys, and because you guys are so dedicated, we have one of the best readiness for coaches in the country. I'll just say that I've been in meetings with coaches from around the country, coach supporters, and other NICA staff. And when they see our numbers, not just the size of the team, but the ratio of coaches to student athletes, they'll start asking questions. Oh, can you do these things that you're planning on? Will you meet coach ratios? And I put numbers out there and they're like, oh, okay. So we just are really on top of it. And so great job. All right, so from here, we have kind of this big concept that there are small groups, and it'll be different than what we're used to. So I want to walk through a little more detail on what a typical week will look like for coaches within, and really just practice within our organization. And so this lays out the way a week runs. The first piece that we have is this Sunday night doing a coach check-in meeting. I do recognize that often folks will be out of town and may not be available, so you will be able to do what you need to if you can attend, but having it as a meeting will make it possible for you to ask questions or talk about how things are going. At that kickoff meeting, we'll put out the information for the week, and it'll be a group by group. Group 7 is practicing out of say Camelback Park, and then once that hands off, then the group lead. So that's going to be the level 3 coach who's leading the group will review the week schedule. So the Tuesday, the Thursday, and the Saturday practice locations, and make sure it aligns to what they're doing. There is a process that you could request to change. So, for example, if you have an adventure ride that's going to be at a different location, we can just make sure that we know where you're going to be. Or like if you choose a morning ride because that's convenient, or for temperature, just a way to let us know back, what your plan is, and so that we, as head coach and team director, we know where your group is for your practices. Then the group lead is going to write the practice plan, and you guys have been experiencing me writing your practice plans for the last number of years, especially if you've been a coach the whole time. And so this is a big change, and so as a group lead, now you get to answer that question. Okay, we're riding from Camelback Park, or are we going to go up Kestrel and Sidewinder or somewhere else? You get to decide that for each of your 3 practices. And there's a tandem team, so we'll have 16 groups, and there's about 7 trailheads in the Boise area. So if one group is riding out of Camelback Park, another may be riding from, say, the inner crest line. And then those 2 groups should work together. You tandem in the same trail system and make sure that you're not all trying to ride down Hell's Gulch and end up with a group of 20 instead of 10. Then you send out that week's plan to the ride group, so parents, student athletes, and coaches all know where and when to meet for that week's practices, and the coaches know what the rides are. And I'll get into a little of this detail when I get into the ride groups, but if you are the group lead, say that you can't make Tuesday's practice, then you're going to make sure that your co-lead is available, or reschedule practice to accommodate what you guys are able to provide. Then ride your ride, and when you're done, report attendance. And there's a Google form for attendance, and we'll do a little bit of a trial on this to make sure that it works well. But hopefully pretty simple. Select a date off the calendar, which group, and you can put your actual group name in here, so check your box for which group you are. Copy paste the list of attendees, coaches, and student athletes that were at your practice, and your location. Just a quick, it was a great practice or it wasn't great, give us a pulse. And then a quick note of, did you have incidents? Did you report them? So we know where things stand. This does include a COVID-19 scenario where you can say, hey, there was something that we should be aware of. And then both the comments, whether discipline or any other types of things that we should know about, and comments or questions in case you don't directly reach out if you need assistance with something. The last piece of this is our practice sequence. So you're mostly familiar with this. Everybody arrives, you do your ABC and do your ride, but have an added detail. So everybody has to be carrying a face cover, and you wear it while in close quarters. So if you're doing skills or something and it's putting you closer together, you would put your masks on, or otherwise you can just keep it stowed. So we put this as ABCC. So your airway brakes chain, and then face cover is that last one. Then you need to do this COVID symptoms check. This will be, we'll give a 2 or a 3 question, but just a really quick opportunity to put it out there. You know, does anybody have flu symptoms like a fever or cough that you can't explain? You know, looking for a show of hands. You know, is anybody exposed to somebody with COVID? Just to put it out there so that you don't have some student athlete thinking, oh, you know, my parents came down with COVID, but I don't have it, so I'm okay. Directly raise the question so that we get that addressed. Then, assuming all clear, you'll do a warm up, and you know, each coach gets to figure out the appropriate warm up for their group. Go ride your practice, and then lumped together in the body of your practice is, you know, if you're planning for an adventure, take the time to do that adventure plan and then go ride. And there will be skills defined for each week. So work those skills into your ride while you're out. From there, when you get back, do a wrap up. You know, anyone, you know, how was everyone's practice? You know, what went well, went poorly, whatever type of questions you ask, and then instead of head coach announcing practice is over, then each of the coaches leading the group will announce practice over, and everybody leaves. From there, record attendance, which is the form I just showed you. So the COVID section, you saw the question, and of course the question that goes with it. Okay, so if somebody says that they do have symptoms, or they're showing symptoms, or they have a contact, what do you do? And so this is under development. I want you to see that we're working toward a clear answer, so that there's no question of what you should do, and so we'll make sure that you have this information in your hands by the time you're working with student athletes. The ride group structure, and so the way we're going to break up these groups, first off, each group will have 8 student athletes, and that may be a plus or minus 1, but 8 student athletes. And then as far as coaches, you'll have a group lead, which I showed on some of the previous slides. There's a co-lead, which is somebody who can take over and run practice if the lead is not present, or you guys can take turns and spread those duties out. It's really up to the lead and the co-lead to figure out how to run things. The lead is expected to have the experience to be ready to run the group, and then make sure that the co-lead has the information necessary, especially where some of the co-leads are newer level 2s, know that you're not going to be left holding the bag. Then each of the lead and co-lead, or the lead, I guess, each group will have a set of level 1 coaches assigned as well, so your ride leaders. As a level 3 or 2 coach in these lead and co-lead positions, this is your opportunity to mentor these new coaches. And remember that they're going to be, or a lot of them will move up to level 2 and eventually level 3. And so all that effort you've made to become proficient as a level 2 or 3 coach, take the time to work with them, both in learning and then also, it's looking for a silver lining in the COVID situation is this small group. This is the same small group that you're going to ride with every practice through the season, and it's an opportunity to become a really cohesive group and get to know each other. So by the time you're done, not only will you have mentored the level 1 coaches, but then you will have got to know them and get to know the student athletes and bring everybody into the social fabric of that small group structure. You get other opportunities, and not getting into how to run this, but you'll naturally see student athletes who lead, and adventure, as an example, opens up an opportunity for the student athletes who have that leadership interest to take the leadership position. So, any questions on that week in the life of a group practicing with the Boise team in 2020?
Andrew, remind me, is 12 the Ridge to Rivers limit?
So 12 is the Ridge to Rivers limit, which is part of why the size of 12 here. The Boise team goal has been to stay at 10 or less.
Yeah.
And the reasoning for this structure with 12 is a few assumptions. One is that out of 4 coach and ride leaders, there can be at least 2 available for the vast majority of practices, and that when one or two of the coaches are unavailable, that we still can meet ratios for that group.
Yeah.
Which incidentally we do have to meet for this season. And then the other, so a couple scenarios. One is that we do get the green light to start practicing, but say that the limit, whether it's from Idaho League, City of Boise, Boise schools, you name it, says, hey, every activity that you do must have a group of 10 or less. We're able to accommodate that. Now, this puts 12 people interacting over a period of time, but if we're restricted to 10, then the coaches can flip a coin, Rochambeau, something to decide 2 coaches to participate in any given practice, and then allow all 8 student athletes to participate. Or in the event that a student athlete is not available, then there can be 3 coaches and still achieve 10 or less.
Yeah.
In any other questions, and it could be about the group structure or the structure of the week.
I have a question, Andrew. I don't know if you already touched on this at the very beginning of the presentation, but did you touch on what days of the week or how many days a week practices would occur once things get started?
Yeah, so I didn't specifically highlight that. We are still advertising it or promoting it as Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So equivalent to what we've done in past seasons. So if it works perfectly for everybody, it'd be Tuesday, Thursday, 6 to 8, and Saturday at a temperature appropriate time for 3 hours. Now that said, because each of these groups are practicing independently, groups can decide what makes sense. So if everybody in the group says, hey, we'd much rather ride when it's cool in the morning, and we're going to meet at 6 a.m. or 7 or whatever, that group can make that decision. They do need to communicate it back to head coach and team director know, hey, group 7 is doing 6 a.m. practices or Monday, Wednesday. and then we aren't surprised if, say Eddie calls, hey, there was a group of Boise out on, and somebody complained with it. No, they shouldn't have been practicing. No, we'll know because you'll let us know.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, jump in if you have other questions, but I'll keep moving forward. So Idaho League time trials. We know nothing about them. They haven't told us anything.
Hey, Andrew, real quick. Nathan had a question,
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can jump back to that. Go ahead, Nathan.
and he put it in chat, but I'll let him ask.
Yeah, just it'd be helpful to have like a checklist, and it sounds like there may already be one, but just a checklist to go over to make sure we have covered everything, and maybe include like the hot days policies, smoke days policies, things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I've been doing kind of similar to that, so that hopefully everybody who would be a ride group lead has your OTB cards, and so I cut some additional of those cards with checklists that I use for the OTB classes, and so it would make sense to do that. So great suggestion. Okay. So for time trials, joking, since Jeff is on here, and I'm sure has been madly working on putting out the information. So we did fairly recently get a more detailed set of information on the time trials, and I'm still keeping it a little bit high level, but the real gist of it is that the time trials are going to occur in the time frame that was originally scheduled for full races. And so what that translates, or the way that comes out is that the Idaho League is setting a race course, and there will be GPX files that show where it goes, and it has some of the details, such as where course marshals are placed, the very precise start-finish line location, and that information. And then what happens is that the team, so the Boise team, therefore coaches and lots of volunteers, will plan and organize the event. So we'll be given access to the timing software, and the way that this works is that every student athlete needs to have a race number. We won't be provided them by the league, but we'll come up with a set of race plates, which is just not hard to do. You order up a stack of them, and they're sequential numbers. So they'll have a number, and every time the student athlete, when they start, then a person at the computer will just use the 10 key and punch in their number, and that shows them starting. And then when they come across the finish line, they punch in their number again, and that stops their time. Then, so we will schedule with the Idaho League. So they'll open up those courses, looking for for teams to participate in courses in their geographic area, and then teams will sign up for the courses and times that they wish to participate. And we can even repeat courses. So I think it was pointed out, maybe a team does bogus 3 times and chooses not to race the Eagle Bike Park course. So those are all options. And then there's a limit, and I don't remember, but there's a limit on how many time trials that each team can do. I don't see that being an issue, but I don't see us needing to do more than the allowed amount. And Jeff, I don't know if you...
I think it's 5.
That's kind of what I was guessing, which would match the number of races we would do.
Right.
And then one of the other things that is an option is we can pair with adventure rides. So, we're gonna put 125 student athletes up at a given location. We're going to significantly, if not completely, eliminate spectators. So it will be a ride group going up, doing their time trial, and then leaving the area where the race occurs, because we're not going to have 250 people hanging out together. The idea is to have, maintain social distance, have groups come, have people do their race and then leave so that we're not overlapping. And so for the Boise team, what that means is the ride groups would each schedule for a slot. So if the Boise team schedules for 3 hours, I'm just making up, I didn't calculate the numbers yet, but if Boise team schedules for 3 hours Saturday from 9 to noon at Bogus, that'll lock that slot for us. And then of our 16 ride groups, ride group 2 will be assigned for that, say 9:15 to 9:30 time slot. They're going to come up, send off all the riders in that 15-minute slot, and then when everybody gets to the finish line, they'll group up, and then they have the option that they can go off and do an adventure ride where they go do around the mountain or some other ride that's more for fun and without a clock.
Andrew, we have a question from Brian Powell.
Okay. Go ahead, Brian. Oh, yeah.
Brian, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't think I.
Oh, you
Posted
raised
one.
your hand, your virtual hand.
Oh, well, I raised it earlier, but then I went ahead and just unmuted and asked my question. Sorry.
All right, sorry about that.
It's all right.
All right, and then I just saw Josh's comment, and so yeah, hopefully that makes for a lot of fun, especially if we get to do, say, a Jug Mountain. There's a ton of riding, and so it could be really fun for everybody to run the course and then go do the self shuttle ride around the lake or somewhere else interesting. All right, the next one is adventure, and I've talked about adventure. I've joked when I've met with the board of directors that I have this very vivid picture in my head of what this looks like, but making sure that I communicate it out to the team. So in the interest of time, I'll keep this kind of short, and then I welcome lots of questions on this if this catches your attention. And we can dig deeper into lots of details on it. First thing, the adventure program is really a lot about progression, and so this first picture that you see here, if you look at, you take a group, and of course this is all relative to the skills and fitness of given group. So your student athlete may fit somewhere different than another, but the idea is that the first adventure ride that you do is set up as something in your home trails. So maybe you're going through the process of doing an adventure, and maybe you do say Orchard Watchman, and maybe that's a more involved ride than what you've done in the past, but something in that closer area. And then the progression on this piece is moving on to say near trails, and so that could be maybe it's a Bogus or Mahalo trail up in the Bogus area or up Idaho City, but something fairly close. And then the progression moves on to where longer, more involved rides and more gear. I think to point out that overnight is something that's specifically for the lead piece here. But the idea is that we can build up to the set of skills for student athletes interested in something like bike packing, so that they can participate in a league event, or as a family, if you were to go, you have you're much better prepared to take on bike packing based on the skills that you learn, or that you and your student athlete learn in this process. And then to go with it, a lot of this is about having student athlete involvement. So involvement in the planning, figuring out what gear you need to pack, and having student athletes do packing. I'll point. I have a few abbreviations here. SA is student athlete. EAP is emergency action plan, and so I think those are probably the most important ones. So, one way I like to look at this adventure experience is that either you as a family goes down to Moab, or in a few years when your student athlete graduates from high school and is grabs some buddies from college and says, "Hey, let's go do Moab for the weekend." You'd like them to have the right skills to go do it safely, and in your emergency action plan, look at, how do I calibrate my judgment, adjust the kinds of riding and the risks that I'm willing to take based on what it's going to take to evacuate in the event of a significant injury. Now, of course, within our program, we have to always keep our risk management hats on, squarely attached and functioning, and keep that risk at a reasonable level. But still, the further you go out, say that you're riding out of a city or somewhere else, you need to know what your emergency action plan is, and it can definitely be different. For example, backcountry communications. If you're somewhere that doesn't have cell service, you as a coach need to have prepared for that. So I wanted to present first this picture showing this concept of really simple adventure rides, and then building up to something that's more involved. And you can see the details adding up to it. Driving further away, we're going to be out riding longer, thinking about more important, some of these details like communications in case they don't have cell service. What do I do for food? If I do an 8-hour ride, I'm hopefully going to be carrying more than a couple gel packs, and so building up the experience so that by the time you as a coach let your ride group plan an 8-hour ride, that they have the type of experience necessary to participate. So I see that Kelly threw a question out there about fully. I think the question is rigid, and so a fully rigid, no suspension fork bike absolutely would be suitable. That's just a matter of calibrating your skills and judgment to the types of riding you're doing. And I'm not calling you out for spelling, but the other question would be rigged, and a fully rigged bike with packs for packing. And you can taunt me back if you want, Kelly. So a fully rigged bike, so packs for carrying gear. Now, we're not going to do bike packing with overnight, but one of the things that we are working towards is having a set of gear that's available for checkout. So if a group does a longer ride, especially if their long-term ambition is bike packing, go do a ride and pack it like you're bike packing, so that when you participate in a league bike packing event next year, you have the experience and are ready to handle either one of them. And sorry about that, Kelly. As I read it, I just the wrong word clicked in my head. So moving forward, so group assignments. Actually, before I move on to that, I want to open it up for questions. I only put the one slide in here looking at the progression for the adventures from simple to complex. And I have another picture that goes with this, talking about the within a week of practices, how an adventure is performed. So let me open up for questions from here. See, judge your interest and figure out the right types of questions to answer. And
Andrew, are these, the adventure rides could be different groups than the pods that we're using for, I want to call them normal practices? Is that true?
the expectation is that this would remain the same groups, and that's based primarily on our COVID safety. If any given person in the team only interacts with 11 other people,
Yeah.
that's a much smaller amount of contact than if we split the group or reshuffle the groups. In a future season when that's not a concern anymore, then then what we would do is when a group says, hey, we want to do an adventure 2, we're going to go plan it out, then that group is going to need to be locked from the time that because the sequence is on a Tuesday you plan it, on a Thursday you dry run it, on a Saturday you do the adventure. That group is going to need to do all of that week worth of practices together.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
And then I just wanted to remind you that all of this training on the adventure building of the program is going to be on Litmus, and that NICA's getting ready to release that probably within the week, I think. Was that right, Andrew?
Yeah, I think there was actually an announcement that it's released today.
Oh, today. Excellent.
Sweet. I'll have to look for that. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So what type of training what are the expectations for that? I mean, a lot of this isn't super difficult. I guess I'm curious how much level of detail.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
So there's not a specific, if you want to lead an adventure 3, then you must have completed an adventure level 3 coach training. There's not that type of structure. And the types of training that we expect to be available are going to be in areas like map reading and navigation, emergency action planning, with a focus more towards adventure bikepacking types of skills, packing a bike. So if you rig a bike, even for a full day, where do you put the weight and what kind of bags do you use? Some of those kind of details. So
I guess one of my questions too is I mean, adventure riding and all that sounds fabulous, but to expect student athletes and their parents to be able to obviously equip a bike with all that gear, and most bikes have to be very specialized to even have the braze-ons and the appropriate attachment points to even have racks installed. So the types of bikes that these kids have are not really suitable for bike packing anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. So bike packing is really that further out, not quite the area of focus. And where I would think about it is in these earlier types
There's
of
3.
So and within adventure, at least in the way I think about it, there's two groupings. I mean, there's many categorizations, but there's 2 groupings I think of, which is day trips and overnight bikepacking trips.
Right.
So I've done 7 days from Durango to Moab, and that's a very different type of adventure than a day trip at Jug Mountain doing self shuttle rides or
Right.
or Moab to go self shuttle up to the top of say UPS and ride down. So both to me very much qualify, and so really in terms of this the progression really helps here. So a group can go to a certain extent, and if they're looking at 8-hour rides in preparation for bikepacking, that's only going to be suitable if that if that whole group, one, if they build up to it, they did these easier adventure 1 and 2 rides, and then they say, man, I'm just jazzed, I want to be prepared for bikepacking, then there's opportunities. And what we can do as a team, I mentioned a team set of gear, and I know that you can go buy a Salsa and have Brazon mounted very specific bags and water bottles and all these things that are super cool, and if you're doing a ton of bikepacking are great. For a team set, looking at maybe a handlebar bag and a seat
Sausage bags.
type bag,
Yeah.
something that pretty universal fit across bikes, and enough to get us from that 3-hour mark up to the 8-hour mark. And then again, if it goes into bikepacking, then that turns into a different type of problem to solve.
Perfect. Thanks.
Andrew, I had a question.
Yeah.
So it looks like the league has extended the allowable hours if we're going to do 8-hour adventure rides.
They have, and so the differentiation is that in the past there was a 4-hour per practice, 10 hours per week limit, and that's specifically for training. And so when you're doing an adventure ride, if you're out for say it's 5 hours, you're not spending 5 hours doing intervals between zone 4 and zone 5. You're going to be running in zone 2, and as coaches, I mean, you don't have to get into the details of a zone 2 versus a zone 5, but pacing is really important. And so if you're doing a long ride, you know that your group's going to take 4, 5, 6, 8 hours to complete a ride. It's going to be really important, one, to have the experience from the previous adventure rides, and two, to control that pace so that you don't have somebody lagging behind in zone 5 for the first 25 minutes, and then they blow up and can't complete the ride.
And to follow up on that, so you mentioned problem solving, which I think would be a great part of adventure training. So yeah, talking to the kids about where are you in your perceived exertion, and I would have to read up a little bit on that to know how to guide them. And also, what about simple mechanics, like fixing simple mechanicals on, I don't know if that'd be part of it as well.
Absolutely. That's, it's a combination of that emergency action plan. Somebody blows a hydraulic brake hose, what do you do? Somebody breaks a chain, the brake hose, you're walking. The chain, you can single speed it. And so there are a lot of these how to fix it and how to limp out type of mechanics pieces that come into play as your adventures become extended. I'll point out that it still follows that coaching guideline that you should be working within the skill set that you're comfortable in, and you would potentially go as far as ABC. I walked somebody through an ABC, and that's as far as I go. And some of that comes down to assessment. So if there's not a coach in the group that could work through a mechanical issue, then maybe the 8-hour ride is not in your wheelhouse, and maybe you're looking at from an emergency action plan. If somebody breaks a chain, we're walking. So how far can we walk? Or how many hours will it take to walk from the furthest point? And so that's the kind of consideration that goes into emergency action planning. And I mean, as an engineer, I have the kind of mind where it's like, okay, what could go wrong? How does it go wrong? What do you do? And I do get kind of, I dig deep into these details and I think about it. And I don't want to cast this gray shadow on an adventure that it's, that you're going to spend 16 hours planning for a 2-hour ride. A lot of this is adaptation from where you're at, but then assessing the kind of ride and making sure that you're within reason. To go with that, as these adventure rides progress, then we'll look for coaches to go over the plans. If you're saying, hey, I need a spot for this like a spot backcountry satellite tracker, then I probably need to be checking in with the head coach and team director, and we'll do an assessment of the emergency action plan for that ride. But if you're doing I guess in this kind of near trails, you're doing a Eastside Mahalo route for 4 hours with a group that is fit and skilled, I'm probably not as concerned. I mean, you'll need an emergency action plan, but it's going to be fairly straightforward. Did that answer your question, Nathan?
Yeah, thanks.
Do you want to come do a trial on this on Saturday afternoon?
Was that for me?
Yeah.
I'm going out of town Saturday.
Okay.
Thanks.
Probably on an adventure ride.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can, if other questions come up, we can come back to this. Get myself to the right screen. So group assignments, and we're a little behind where I thought we would be at this point, but by the end of the week, the groups will be out there, and we're doing this a little bit tops down. So have the confirm with group leads that they're comfortable as group leads. So if you're a level 3 coach, then there's a good chance you're going to get an email confirming that you're comfortable being a group lead, and the type of group that you would be assigned to lead. And then we'll send those group leads the list of groups, so the list of student athletes and level 2 and 1 coaches that are going to be in your group, and allow you to review that. Make sure that you're based on the best knowledge you have of that set of student athletes, that it's a good fit, and then leave some room for adjustments. So if you're like, oh, I know that this one particular student athlete definitely would be a better fit for this group where other buddies are at, then we can do some swaps and adjustments. And then the end goal is on next Wednesday. We'll have the team meeting on so July 29th. We'll have the team meeting where we bring student athletes into the mix, and then we'll pass out some information kind of similar to this, expectation of what the season looks like. But then we'll do a group breakout. I'm not sure if you guys have experienced this in Zoom, but there is a capability where you assign a set of people to a group, and then the facilitator pushes the button and everybody gets bumped out of the whole team meeting and bumped into a meeting with just their group. So that'll put everybody in one ride group into one Zoom meeting, and give a chance for you guys to do introductions, talk a little bit about what what your team is, or what your ride group is interested in. We have um, a group naming scheme, and so ideally groups can come up with a name at that time, and our student leadership came up with the scheme for those names, so they'll get to announce that next week. And so your group can start getting to know each other at that time. And the nice thing about breaking into those groups is it's going to allow, you're going to have 12 people in a group, and that'll give you the opportunity to, should be pretty manageable to actually have everybody off mute, or close to off mute, and be able to talk to, give everybody a chance to talk instead of just listening and looking at other slides. It should be a bit more engaging. And then I don't have it on the slide here, but then the leads from after that Zoom breakout can give further feedback if the assignments seem off, if there's something, it's like if you have one person that's like, oh man, I'm just totally all about racing, and they're in a group that it's, hey, we're going to do laid back adventure rides, then that gives you an opportunity to say, hey, so and so probably would have been a better fit for elsewhere, and we'll do those last shifts in preparation for what Josh put out as our next optimistic date of August 10th, so that we start doing practices then that we're ready to go. So, questions on group assignments process?
Are you showing that next slide? Are you showing that other slide, Andrew, the criteria?
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me, good question. So, how the heck did we split everybody up into groups? And I'll tell you, it's not been easy. This was one of, I've done a number of different slices for how to approach it, but what I did first off is there's 16 groups, and that's just the math of a thin 130 student athletes divided into groups of 8 gives us 16. And so based on that, then what I did is first off I sorted by age group, and I took this middle school, which of course is a pretty broad range, and then lower classmen, upperclassmen for high school, and divided it into groups. And that is maybe arbitrary, but had to start somewhere. And then for this speed grouping, well, so first I want to point out, so within each of the age groupings, I divided it into, so if you start with this middle group, roughly light adventure, kind of getting out, exploring things, or really fairly new and kind of learning the ropes, learning the skills, and then working up, maybe like the slow climb bomb down is, that was a comment that I saw in the survey a handful of times, and I just want to take my time going up, and then it's all about the descent for me. And then this performance adventure, getting out for distance and cool places, and really, I'm fit. I probably do race well, but I'm excited about the chance to, whether it's a Pearl Loop gravel ride or that 8-hour adventure in up in the Sawtooths or something. And then the last one is this much stronger race focus. And so that was kind of that breakdown of a bit of a sentiment of what types of interest I saw. Then I did a little further. I took for the younger group, and I gave a little bit more space in the new to the team, learn the skills, and on the upperclassmen, I broke out this full on, I'm you know, it's all about racing for me. That's all I care about. Or, you know, I'm, you know, racing's cool and I want to keep building my fitness and I want to go see cool stuff. So kind of just spread that scale a little bit based on age and maturity. And then this speed group, really, this was just kind of a, you know, my, you know, kind of putting a perspective of, hey, you know, these are probably slower to faster within the groups, and the skill levels kind of looks like this. You know, I rated it more heavily on the 1 plus, and here I rated it more heavily on the 2 plus. And so that was as far as creating the initial set of groupings, what I put together, and so I'm grouping, you know, then taking, okay, you know, I have an 11th grader who says that they, you know, they just really fit into it. You know, their description, their survey results, everything would put them into this slow climb, but bottom down kind of perspective, and they have the skills. Just going to go stick them. And so did a slicing that way. I did another pass where I took I took where the family, so the parents' survey results said, you know, their social distancing comfort. So if I had everything from a, you know, parent that said, hey, you know, I'm severely immune compromised, and so I have to be super careful, all the way to, I think that this is no big deal. You can, you know, if the whole team practices together, I'm fine with it. The main thing I wanted to do was if I have somebody that's on that side of the scale here where they have to be very careful about the risk, I'm very specifically not going to pair them up with somebody who is not concerned about the risk, because even though I'm controlling the size of these groups, I can't control the size of the groups that the less concerned families are participating. And so that's a slice that I applied where anybody that was careful to say, hey, you know, I need to be really careful, then I did further division and slicing. The other thing that I'll do is you're probably guessing that these bell curve a little bit, and that I have a lot of people that fall into the middle groups in each one of these. And so in order to accommodate that, and where I end up with, like, I think this, say this performance adventure here, or, you know, might have had 16 in the initial grouping. Then I'm going to do some looking at, can I do some combining where I have, you know, 10th graders that are combined into a group that's with 11th graders, and divide those groups down a little bit more finely. So that's kind of what this process looks like. You can guess by the number and the variables that go into it. It is pretty involved.
Hey, Andrew, Mike DiVittorio here. Quick question for you.
Yes.
First of all, very thoughtful categorization. I think you've done a great job of really thinking about how to divide these kids up. So kudos to you. That couldn't have been easy.
Thanks.
The question stems from maybe a prior conversation in which we discussed maybe putting siblings in the same ride group. Are we not doing that at this point? Are you planning on not doing that?
So I have a subset of families where they mark that they're specifically looking for that everybody in the same ride group, and have a combination of especially multiple parents and or siblings that are on the team. And so those ones I will very specifically review their placement, and I will put that out to make sure that those families are happy with the way that's laid out. If I have families that have indicated that their comfort level is not so stringent, then I don't intend to to be strict about that approach. And I'll let that answer sink. I wanted to just throw one other factor that I definitely included in here. So of the 50 or so student athletes that responded to the survey, they all had the opportunity to indicate the friends that they particularly wanted to ride with. And I think there was a consistent sentiment that above all, student athletes are interested in riding with friends. So that was one of the first things I did was I took that friend listing and I did my best to group them together. And then of course the natural outcome of that is that, you know, if I have a friend pairing where one is in the blue group, wide open, you know, not worried about things, and the other's in the red group, you know, it has to be family only, group of 12, then they're going to get split.
Andrew, we have a bunch of questions in the chat. I don't know if you want to go through those, or we've got about 20 more minutes, but yeah, if we're to Q&A now might be a good time to just run through those, and you can see that, right?
Yeah, I had, so for some reason, Zoom keeps hiding the chat unless I have Zoom as my app in focus. So I had to switch over. I'm scanning through.
Tyler Lund had a similar question to Devo's. Will I be riding with my kid this year as a coach? And then Angela's was kind of similar, but 2 kids.
So to that question, will I be riding with my kids? But the default answer on that is if you indicated on the survey that you feel the most appropriate safety for your family is to participate in a single ride group, then the answer is yes. If you did not indicate that, then I'm erring on the side of pairing based on fitness skills and interest. If you feel, you know, if that answer gives you concern, if you're looking either to make sure you do ride with your kids, or you are you indicated that you want to ride with a family group only, or your spouse indicated that, and you in fact wish to be separated from your kids, let me know, and we can adjust either way. Okay, so Tim made a comment that he can do a coach's talk on intensity. I think that would be a particularly interesting talk, at least from my perspective. I've tried to come up with approaches that are suitable outside of doing FTP tests and everybody wearing a heart rate monitor. So I know that Tim has more practical approaches. And so that would be interesting. I think it ends up being a lifelong skill anyway. And then if anybody comment if you wanted more on that or if that stands out as something of interest.
Andrew, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, the next question I was going to put out there, so this was from Brad, which was how do we want coaches to provide input on group selection once you see the list? I didn't have a specific answer on that yet, and two options I have would be either to throw a Google form out there, and you can just which may be our easiest option. There is always good old email would get the job done. And then if somebody has a genius idea to make it go smoothly, let me know. The main thing I will want to keep it fairly, well, not anonymous, but private. So we'll make sure that that's not a public conversation where folks, where somebody potentially gets their feelings hurt if there's a suggestion to make a move. So from the hallways, what about geocaching rides? Absolutely. And so in terms of adventure, there's not constraints about what really makes an adventure an adventure. Geocaching is a great thing, and I kind of the text of this question talking about map reading, and some of these other elements. That would be excellent, and I'd put it out there that if your family has some experience in geocaching, that that's something that we could help other groups within the team figure out how to do, especially after you've gotten together and put together a geocaching ride. And sorry, I'm kind of trying to read through these questions and as I go. And let's see here. So from Tyler, and so I guess, I mean, this question is about riding with your kids, and so I think I answered that question. One other aspect that of course comes into it is a combination of fitness and skills, and sometimes we have student athletes that are way more fit and or skilled than their parents, and the parents get to be an excellent coach and role model as is a good fit for them. But again, if you as a parent particularly want to be aligned to your student athletes group, I would welcome an email letting me know that. And I recognize that sometimes the best fit is a parent with their student athlete, especially right now where parents are looking for that opportunity to interact with their child. But there's also other scenarios where as much as we love our kids, and I'd be one to raise my hand here, I know my daughter does not want me to coach her, and so sometimes it's not the best fit to coach your own student athlete, and so like I say, let me know if you feel strongly one way or the other, and we'll do our best to accommodate.
So Andrew, I might jump in here on there's a lot of questions about the students coaching the kids. And I think what you're at now is, you guys can all see that Andrew has dove into the data, mined all the valuable information that we got from the survey, and come up with, I think, what's a really good first draft plan. And now we'll work together to work with the group ride leads and come up with the final plan. And so I think there'll be some drafts in there, correct? And we'll do some back and forth with folks. So that's what'll be happening in the next few days. One thing that I know that I've heard from parents, Andrew, is not so much a concern about coaching your kid. I think most of us probably don't want to coach our kid. The challenge now is the logistics of, if we aren't all going to the same ride location as 125 kids and breaking up, that's one percentage of time where you're okay if your kid's with another coach. But if we're splitting up in different ride groups, and we happen, like if my kid's riding at a different time than I'm riding with another group of kids, that becomes a real family issue. So I think if we sooner than later kind of start amongst the coach group working on what these ride groups look like, how we can split up family time and things like that. That's what I hear mostly from parents. Not so much that they want to coach their kids, but more that they don't want to have multiple sections of time away from their family where they're not with their kids. Does that make sense?
I know this is part of risk management, and the practice starts at wheel time, but I mean, carpooling, I mean, what are I know in the age of COVID, that's a tricky business, but is that something that we can even entertain as a team, or is that something that has to be outside of the team structure?
So officially, carpooling is something that the team really doesn't get in the business of. And so, like, if you are wearing your parent hat and your child's friend rides in the car with you, that's a very appropriate decision for you as a parent to make. But as a coach, you wouldn't load some other kids who aren't your kids' friends in your car and travel with them somewhere. Now there is this challenge of practices that are starting on, from different locations, and it's a problem I hadn't put a whole lot of thought into. We definitely have, especially for the older age groups, a lot of practice locations that are suitable for riding from, riding to the practice location. Unless it's somebody on a fairly far out. With the multiple members in a family, that's a tough one. I mean, ultimately we're trying to split out into these kind of, more 16 practice start locations, although, it turns out to be about 7, with just, 2 different start locations at Military Reserve, for example.
Well, Andrew, I don't think we need to solve that today. I think it's just obviously something that that everybody's kind of bringing up, but you're on a good plan here, and we have a great first draft. I think now is the time to take, and we've got a lot of good comments in the chat and good talk here. I know we have about 10 more minutes till 7:30's up. Let's take all this information in and then consider that when we come up with our next draft. We know it's complex, and it's great that everybody's putting a lot of work into this. It isn't something that isn't well thought out, but it's complicated. So we'll figure it out.
Yep.
But yeah, so we'll give us all your input, and draft 2 will reflect what we've learned.
Hey, I have one other, I don't mean to make the job any more complex, but my preference would be to ride in the morning. So to the extent that there are other coaches and or athletes that would like to ride in the morning, on Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, and then Saturday, ride it, a little bit later morning time, that would be my preference. But I can do either. I'm flexible, but and I don't know whether you want to even throw that extra wrinkle in there, but you did mention ride plans coming out at the beginning of the week. But when in the dead of summer, my preference would be to ride early before the heat. So,
yeah. So I think that we have a nice opportunity to work with that, Mike, in that. We have a target time, Tuesday, Thursday, 6 to 8, because that's when we've always done it. But as long as a particular ride group okay with adjusting the morning, then that's suitable. And I think that would make a particularly good question to cover in next Wednesday, is just that quick question. Hey, is Tuesday, Thursday 6 to 8 your preferred time, or who's open to morning practices, probably 3 different types of times all the time, or maybe 1 day a week, or when it's particularly hot, and so that the group can decide that, and there's opportunity in that reshuffling if you have 11 people in your group that would prefer to ride morning every single practice, and one that absolutely cannot, then that's an opportunity to switch somebody.
Okay, Andrew, I think we've got a lot good in the chat. I can save the chat. Do you want to start to kind of wrap it up and then let us know how things will look in the coming days as we refine the group piece?
Yeah, I will just kind of re-hit that point. So working towards the end of the week, the group lead coaches, you should know that you are the group lead coach, and then have a group in front of you to confirm that it's a good match for you in that time. And then by Wednesday of next week, when the team meets as a team, then that'll be the opportunity where you as that group lead get to meet with your student athletes for the first time and chat through some questions. And I'd it's just another one. Think about what questions you'd ask, and if you feel like you have good questions in mind that you're going to talk through with your group, don't hesitate to shoot them my way. So I get actually surprisingly few emails from coaches. So don't hesitate to email me stuff. And so things like, hey, on Wednesday, I think I'm going to ask these 6 questions, or here's a question I hadn't heard that I think would be interesting to know. Shoot it out there, and we can kind of share those questions, or even kind of when you divide into those groups, give everybody the chance to, or that as a starting point for, hey, go through these questions and then talk and get to know each other.
So quick question, Andrew. So if the groups are going to be kind of somewhat formed by this Friday, the 24th, and then the meeting will be on the 29th next Wednesday, will there be an opportunity for any communication to those doing like the support coaching role? Whether or not those groups are what we might be interested in, or?
Yeah. So yes, I do expect that prior to, so nobody as a coach, level 1 or above, should be surprised to know what group you are projected to go with. I don't know for sure that you will see the list of student athletes, but you would at least know which lead coach you're working with, and what type of group it is.
Okay. Yeah, I just was curious if there was any way we could give any input if we were interested in a particular group, whether it's adventure or whatever.
Yeah, I did see that your question about that in the chat, and I assume that was you are interested in adventure specifically, and probably the adventure I think it was 14.
And 9 or 14, either one looks interesting.
Okay. Yeah, so I will make sure that you land in one of those groups.
Perfect.
Any other questions before we wrap it up? Okay, well, we're actually 7:25, so 5 minutes before designated shutdown.
Andrew?
Yeah.
Could we see if Carolyn has anything to add as we wrap stuff up?
Oh, absolutely. And because I had something in front of me, I talked to it, so I didn't even
No worries.
hand the reins over to Carolyn on the attendance slide. So yeah, Carolyn, jump in, please.
Lance, I just wanted to also thank all the coaches, especially 36 of you showing up is awesome. Give you a little update. We have 44 currently licensed coaches with about 10 more really close. 34 are level 2 and level 3, and that's barely covering our 32 or 16 groups. So we'll get there. We could use more level 1 coaches. So I'm going to reach out to all the new families again, because there was a lot of interest early on from them. And then it's kind of plateaued as we've delayed and delayed and delayed. But last year we had about 74 coaches. So I'd like to have 60. The other good thing, Team Snap, I got all the student athletes updated last week as riders. I need to get back in now and work on the non-riders, which are coaches. Because for events like this, it would be great if we marked attendance and then I wouldn't have to do it on the side. Because the reason we want attendance is so that I can then send this recording out to the coaches that were out of town. Because this is a lot of information and there's a lot more to get out, and it's hard to get all this information out, as you know. We got an update. Our adventure jerseys will be here a week early, which is cool. We'll have a great jersey so that we can at least ride around with our families right now in them. And that's really all I have. Just keep being patient with us. We're following the guidelines that are recommended by our local people, and that's all we can do. So thank you.
Yeah, again, thank you. I did want to reiterate one other thing, which is OTB 101 or 201. Managing registration of those classes shifted where it used to be by the Idaho League and it used to cost you money to take them. That's no longer the case. So they are free. They only cost you your time. And so if you are interested in either one of those courses, please let me know, and I will I will continue to schedule them as long as I'm filling classes. So if you say, hey, I'm definitely interested, that'll help me know that I should keep scheduling.
One quick final question, Andrew. There's people that have asked that can't make the meeting next week, you know, summer vacations, all that good stuff. I'm assuming that's okay. There'll be more follow-up and stuff like that, and you will record the meeting next week.
So yes, we'll definitely record it. I mean, mandatory meetings are particularly challenging. So you know, if somebody can't make it, unfortunately, they're not going to get that chance to connect with their group. But we're not going to give up your slot just because you weren't there to speak for yourself.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.